What happens when America's voice of hope is cornered on live television by someone who should have known better? When the line between interview and ambush is crossed so boldly that it leaves an entire nation stunned. This wasn't just another press appearance. It was a breaking point, a moment of reckoning, and everyone watching knew they were witnessing something unforgettable. It all began like any other crisp New York morning on the set of the Today Show. The backdrop of the city skyline gleamed behind the cameras. Coffee cups were steaming. Stagehands moved efficiently, and the studio buzzed with the familiar rhythm of lighthearted segments and warm banter. Kelly Clarkson, Grammy-winning artist and household name, was scheduled for a sit-down to promote her much-anticipated new album and announce her upcoming tour. Expectations were low stakes. A few laughs, some light conversation, a couple of fan-favorite stories. Then out the door, Jenna Bush Hager, standing confidently at center stage, wore her trademark smile, one that was part Southern charm, part polished broadcaster, as she glanced at her cue cards. "Welcome back," she began, as the camera zoomed in. "We are thrilled to be joined this morning by the one and only Kelly Clarkson." A round of applause followed from the live audience. "Kelly, it's so good to have you." Kelly, radiant but visibly tired, offered a soft smile. "Thanks, Jenna. Good to be here. It's always nice to come back." It was supposed to be a celebration, a tribute to resilience and music. But just minutes in, the tone shifted. Jenna leaned forward slightly, voice lowering like a friend asking something they already knew they shouldn't. "You've had such an incredible journey this past year. New music, a new chapter in your life. But many are curious. How have you really been coping, especially with everything in your personal life?" Kelly's smile faltered, barely, but enough to be caught by the camera's keen eye. The question hung in the air, suspended between politeness and provocation. "I'd love to talk about the album," Kelly replied calmly, her tone even but unmistakably firmer than before. "That's why I'm here. The songs really say everything I've wanted to express." Jenna nodded, lips curled in a sympathetic grin that didn't quite meet her eyes. "Of course," she said. "But Kelly, people admire your strength. You've spoken in the past about your divorce, the challenges of being a single mother, juggling fame, motherhood, heartbreak. Don't you think there's value in continuing to be open about those things?" A low murmur rippled through the control room. This was not the agreed-upon path. Producers exchanged worried glances, but the cameras kept rolling, the red lights blinking like tiny warning signals. Kelly shifted in her seat, and her posture stiffened just slightly. "There's a time and place to talk about that. And today, I came here to celebrate the music. I poured my soul into that's what this interview was supposed to be about." "Sure," Jenna said quickly, "but don't you think the music is even more powerful when people understand what's behind it?" That was it, the tipping point. Kelly inhaled slowly. The heat in the room, or maybe just behind her eyes, spiked. She didn't lash out immediately. Instead, she let the silence speak first, and when she finally replied, her voice was velvet-trapped steel. "Jenna," she said, "my fans connect with me because they hear my truth in the lyrics. They don't need it torn out of me in a live interview like this is some courtroom." Jenna opened her mouth to counter, but Kelly wasn't finished. "I've done interviews for 20 years. I know the difference between curiosity and exploitation. This," she gestured to the cameras, "this feels like the latter." The studio went still. Even the audience, who had been encouraged to clap and laugh during commercial breaks, now sat in pin-drop silence. Jenna glanced toward the producers, clearly debating whether to pull back or dig in. And in a decision that would later be questioned, in boardrooms and press recaps alike, she chose the latter. "Kelly, I think you're being a little defensive," Jenna said. "We're just trying to have an honest conversation. Our viewers look up to you. They want to know how you're really doing." A flicker of disbelief passed across Kelly's face. "You want honesty?" she said, her tone now razor-sharp. "Okay, here's honesty. I came here to discuss my album. I sat in makeup, put on a brave face, told myself this would be a light conversation. And now I'm sitting here being prodded about the worst time in my life like it's some tabloid game show." "Kelly, you've shared before," Jenna said, her voice still playing it calm. "We just thought you thought I'd crack." Kelly snapped. "You thought if you asked just the right question, I'd break into tears, and it'd be great TV. Well, congratulations, Jenna, because I'm not crying. But I am furious." In the control booth, a producer whispered, "Do we cut to break?" Another shook their head, eyes locked on the screen. "This is gold." Back on set, Kelly's hands tightened on the arms of her chair. "You talk about wanting to connect. You want to connect with me?" she asked, her voice rising. "Then talk to me about my craft. Ask about the song I wrote at 3 a.m. after a sleepless night, or the way I rewrote a chorus 4 times until it sounded just right. Don't sit there pretending this is empathy when it's clearly entertainment." Jenna's face turned pink, and for a moment, she looked like she might apologize. But instead, she shifted in her seat and said softly, "Sometimes, sharing helps. People heal. And sometimes," Kelly shot back, "people deserve to heal without an audience." The line cut through the studio like a slap. Jenna blinked, clearly unsure of how to proceed. The co-hosts at the side of the set leaned back slightly, now visibly uncomfortable. One of them whispered something to a producer off camera. Kelly stood. The sound of her microphone brushing against her blouse sent a small feedback squeal through the speakers. She unclipped it, hands steady, eyes never leaving Jenna's. "I've done a lot of interviews in my life," she said, "but this isn't one of them. This was a trap, and I walked right into it." She placed the microphone gently on the cushion of her chair. Jenna stood too, her voice trembling now. "Please, don't go. Let's finish this." Kelly tilted her head. "Finish what?" "The public shaming. The televised therapy session." "No thanks. People are watching," Jenna said, almost pleading. "I know," Kelly replied, "and maybe that's the only reason I didn't leave 5 minutes ago." She turned to the cameras, speaking now not as a guest, but as a woman reclaiming her narrative to anyone watching. Artists, celebrities, people who've been through pain. Let this be a reminder. You do not owe your trauma to anyone. Not your interviewer, not your fans, not the media. Your story is yours. Tell it when you're ready, not when someone else wants to sell it. With that, she turned and walked off set. The studio remained silent, stunned, the echoes of her words hanging in the air like smoke after a fire. Jenna stood frozen. A dozen different expressions flickered across her face: regret, anger, confusion. But the damage was done. The interview had ended, not with applause, but with a lesson. The cameras cut to black, only moments after Kelly Clarkson exited the set, but the damage had already been done. Social media exploded before the control room even made its decision to go to commercial. Clips of the confrontation were already circulating across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Hashtags like #KellyWalksOut, #TodayShowDisaster, and #JennaAmbush were trending worldwide. Within 10 minutes, every media outlet had a hot take. The moment had become a cultural lightning rod. Inside the studio, the silence was deafening. Jenna Bush Hager stood still, staring at the spot where Kelly had disappeared just moments earlier. Her co-hosts, clearly rattled, didn't know whether to console her or back away. A producer approached her with a clipboard and a headset still buzzing with frantic voices. "Jenna," he whispered, "they want to know if we can salvage the segment." Jenna didn't respond at first. Her hands were shaking slightly. The warm glow of the studio lights now felt harsh, like interrogation, lamps in a crime drama. "I didn't mean for it to go that way," she finally said, mostly to herself. I thought we were connecting, but she wasn't convincing anyone, especially not herself." Backstage, Kelly was pacing in the hallway, hands clenched, into fists. Her manager Marcy was already there, holding out a bottle of water. "I told them," Kelly muttered. "I told your team nothing about my divorce, nothing about the custody battle, nothing about the depression. This was supposed to be a celebration." Marcy nodded, jaw tight. "I'll handle it." "But, Kelly, that was powerful. You didn't just walk out. You made a statement, a real one." Kelly didn't respond at first. Her heart was still racing, but not from anger anymore, from release. From speaking what she had wanted to say in interview after interview, but never could. "Then I hope someone hears it," she said finally. Really hears it. Meanwhile, across the country, people were hearing it. Fans and critics alike were weighing in with opinions, essays, and even side-by-side reaction videos. Celebrities started chiming in, some defending Jenna, others praising Kelly. Music journalists were digging into Kelly's album, finally analyzing lyrics they had previously skimmed past. Suddenly, Kelly's songs weren't just catchy anthems, they were testimonies. And the world wanted to listen. Later that afternoon, the Today Show released an official statement on their website and social platforms. It was brief and vague. "We respect Kelly Clarkson's voice, both as an artist and as a person. This morning's interview took an unexpected turn. We are in communication with her team and wish her continued success with her tour and music." It read more like a PR bandage than a sincere apology. Kelly's response came through her own post, hours later, not from her publicist, not crafted by a social media manager, but written in her own voice. "My art is mine. My story is mine. I won't be broken down for someone else's entertainment. Thank you to the fans who see me, hear me, and support me on my terms." The message got over 3 million likes in 6 hours. But the fallout wasn't over. The next day, Jenna returned to the show, visibly shaken but trying to present her usual bright demeanor. "We're going to address what happened yesterday," she began, seated solo on the couch, no guests in sight. "I want to speak honestly." The camera zoomed in slightly. "I've always believed in the power of conversation. I've always believed in connection through truth," Jenna continued. "But yesterday, I failed. I pushed too far. I asked questions that in hindsight were invasive. I lost sight of what the moment was supposed to be. And for that, I'm sorry to Kelly, to our viewers, and to every guest who's ever felt cornered instead of celebrated." The studio audience clapped politely. Online, the reactions were more divided. Some praised her for owning up. Others saw it as too little, too late. Still, the segment was being replayed and dissected by the hour. People weren't just watching a feud, they were watching a broader conversation unfold about celebrity culture, boundaries, and the media's role in both exploiting and elevating artists. Meanwhile, Kelly kept a low profile. She canceled the rest of her press interviews that week, issuing a simple statement, "I've said what needed to be said. Now let the music speak," and it did. Her album sales surged. Her streaming numbers skyrocketed. One track, a quiet ballad titled "No More Apologies," suddenly became an unofficial anthem of resistance. Fans began sharing videos of themselves singing the chorus, using the moment as a rallying cry for anyone who had ever felt exploited or misunderstood. Days later, a segment from a podcast interview Kelly had done months earlier resurfaced. In it, she said, "People think the hardest part of fame is the pressure. It's not. It's the way everyone believes they're entitled to your pain, like it's public property." Those words now hit differently. Jenna Bush Hager, for her part, began reevaluating her on-air presence. She started declining certain segments. She asked producers to pull back on personal topics when booking guests. In internal meetings, she reportedly said, "If it doesn't serve the guest's voice, we shouldn't be asking it." But some questioned her sincerity, especially since she didn't reach out to Kelly directly until a week later, when she finally did. The message was private, a handwritten letter delivered by courier. Kelly never confirmed its contents publicly, but insiders say she appreciated it. Still, she didn't respond. The public watched all of this unfold in real time. The spectacle was over, but the impact remained. A month later, Kelly returned to the stage in Nashville. Her first show since the interview. As she stepped into the spotlight, the crowd roared with such intensity it nearly drowned out the intro music. She stood there for a moment, overwhelmed, smiling at the audience that had stuck by her, not just because of her music, but because she had drawn a line. Midway through the set, she paused between songs. "You know," she said, "when you go through something hard in front of the whole world, it either breaks you or it frees you. I've been on both sides of that. And I'm still standing, and I'm still singing, and I'm gonna keep doing it on my terms." The crowd erupted by then. The Today Show had moved on to other guests. The headlines had shifted, but something had undeniably changed. Producers across networks held new meetings about ethical lines. Journalists reconsidered how they approached interviews. Even fans learned a little more about what it means to truly respect a public figure's privacy. What had started as a 50-minute segment meant to promote an album became a mirror for the entire industry. And at the center of it all was a woman who refused to be silent. A woman who had nothing left to prove, but everything left to protect. Kelly Clarkson didn't just walk off a set that day. She walked into history.